Leafs lose this weekend. And it was ugly. It was just really ugly. It was one of the worst games that they've played all season long. Lifeless performance that solicited boos from the Leafs crowd, which I really like, man, because Leafs crowds can be pretty dead, pretty emotionless. Saturday night against the Canucks, I'm guessing that there were some Canucks fans in there, that they were talking a little bit of trash. This felt like it was supposed to be a layup win for the Leafs, which, as you know, with this core, when things are presented to them as, hey, this is going to be easy, they seem to say, oh, good, we don't really need to try then. We don't need to put the pedal to the metal. Oh, crap, we're down 2-0 to the Vancouver Canucks, who landed this afternoon and who played last night and who have won 2 of their last 10 games. And I think we're winless in their last 4 or 5. They're a dreadful team. They're mired in controversy. And the Leafs just came out flat, didn't have really even a moment in the game. They asked the players about the game and the effort and all the classic staples of a beat reporter in that spot. And I had mentioned on Leafs Talk that night, I was curious to hear what Craig Berube had to say, because for the most part, he has been pretty reserved when it comes to criticizing players publicly. In fact, he's been pretty reserved in terms of like showing any of the accountability stuff that we were told was going to happen this season with any of his star players. Like William Nylander gets to play 2 minutes of the power play every night. He had a 4-minute shift and his coach didn't plaster him for it. His star players were coming off of a game in which the top line was minus 15, and he rolled them right back together for that night against the Vancouver Canucks. And I thought Austin Matthews was completely invisible, and yet it was like, no shakeup coming, whatever, no big deal. So after the game, they asked Chris Tanev about it, and he says, we got outworked. That's why we lost. Like, okay. Not good enough, he said. Berube said they were too flat, which, again, I wouldn't have minded a little bit more fire and brimstone from Berube in that media conference, but that didn't end up being the headline. The headline comes from Mitch Marner, who says this. Goes, on the effort level, quote, I liked it. I thought we played well. I really did. The last couple of games, we've been giving up plays to teams that aren't missing on them, end quote. Okay. Your line, again, a couple of nights ago was minus 15, and you just lost to a Canucks team that stinks on home ice and got booed by your fan base. And I've seen some people, because like I took to Twitter about this and mentioned that I think that accountability culture matters more when it's pervasive amongst the players than it is amongst the coaching staff. Like, you can only preach it so much if you're the coaching staff of a team. I think that ultimately the players have to be bought in, and you need to see that from your best guys, that like they hold themselves accountable and that they will do this. And I know that there's going to be some people who get defensive because they feel like Mitch Marner is unfairly portrayed or overly criticized, and that he has been excellent for the most part of the season, and blah, 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 go on down the line. That this is a conversation that's really hard to have without a bias. And I'll say to you, this is why I can't stand it. A big part of this season is supposed to be about not just Mitch Marner's play in the regular season, or more importantly, the playoffs, because I think we all agree we know who he is in the regular season. We know he dominates. But during that media day, what did I give him a ton of credit for? Do you guys remember? It was that I liked the way that he spoke. He sounded like a guy who had an offseason where he was maturing a little bit. And I put it out there. I asked people, I mentioned, hey, maybe him being out there with Nathan MacKinnon and Sidney Crosby and feeling like he was a real core piece of Team Canada and entering free agency, he was starting to kind of accept, like, you know what? There's some things about my maturity. Like, I got to grow up a little bit. I got to be a little bit more serious in my approach. I got to be a little bit more thoughtful in my approach. And I gave him a ton of credit for it. I really did. I thought, damn, maybe this thing has changed. Maybe this guy has taken the step. I know that I didn't take a step really maturely like that. Didn't become more of, I would say, a man who took accountability for things until I was in my late 20s as well, maybe even early 30s. So for a guy who has been a hockey player his whole life, I don't blame him for being a bit of a late bloomer when it comes to emotional and mental maturity. Like, give a little bit of grace with that stuff. And so for him to step to the podium and say, in the face of the fans booing you, and a shutout loss to a crappy team on home ice on Hockey Night in Canada, that you liked the effort, is lame to me. And it's a scary marker. I'm sorry. I don't think that the guys in the dressing room are looking at Mitch Marner's quote and going like, oh my God, Mitch. No, I think they love Marner. I think that's pretty well documented, that Marner's teammates like him. They think he's a fun dude, keeps it light. He's enjoyable to be around. His teammates want to play with him. That's why Austin Matthews keeps going on the same line with him. It's not because he's being forced by the coaching staff. It's because he wants to play with Marner. So I don't think that this is like an internal locker room issue. What I do think it is a sign of someone that still doesn't know how to be accountable to things and who thinks that just being fine is good enough. And to me, that's like a trouble sign with any young adult. I say it to my producers all the time. I think I learned this lesson when I was a little kid, is if you own up to your mistakes, then you can move forward. You can move past them. It shows that you have personal growth. And so to be there, and I get it. Some of you are going to say I'm reading too much into this, and I think I would be if it was just a one-off, but this continuously happens with Mitch Marner. After playoff losses, he ends up with quotes like this. After bad regular season stretches, he ends up with quotes like this, where he's kind of self-satisfied. And it drives me crazy, and I really think it does not resonate well with Leaf fans that he believe that they're gods. It drives them nuts. Nobody wants to see a product like that and then hear back from the person that it was actually good and you didn't know what you were watching. So for Mitch Marner, I just think it's an easy fix, man. You just got to take accountability when you don't play well, and people are going to appreciate it. It's going to show some sign that, hey, maybe you're not satisfied with just being good or being in first place, that the only thing that's going to satiate you is a Stanley Cup, is winning, and that in order to do that, it is going to take a bit of a mental shift for you. And I think anybody that doesn't understand that, frankly, is a little bit of a loser. Anyways, Christopher Stieg of the Clever app and two-time Stanley Cup champion. I made him sit on the line forever. I went longer on that than I thought I was going to. What's up, buddy? How we doing?
Why?
Why?
The team's in first place, and I have to come on after these two games.
Yeah, I know.
Why?
I don't know. I told you. You have impeccable timing. It's almost like whenever the Leafs perform poorly, I got to bring you on. I don't know how many wins you've come on after, but I think if we did the breakdown, you've been on after a loss 90% of the time.
The first place team.
Yeah, I know. It's
Team,
unbelievable.
and I'm coming on after their two worst games.
Yeah.
Why?
You said yes. I asked you. You could say no. You could say, hey, call me when they look great. I want to come on after a game where they look great. Next time, I'll try to do that.
And you're talking about the Vancouver fans. I was at the game Saturday. I actually had my buddy. He's a big cattle guy because Alberta beef's the best, right? So I wanted to bring him out to a steakhouse in Toronto before the game to get some Ontario beef. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he wasn't satisfied.
He wasn't satisfied, eh? That's pretty harsh to that steakhouse you took him
to. We can get into corn-fed versus barley-fed beef any day and what tastes better. But there was definitely Vancouver fans in that steakhouse getting going, rubbing it in the Leafs' face prior to the game. So that started early. I seen it firsthand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. Those games usually have a little bit of added stakes. The Saturday night game, I feel like more fans more real fans go to the Saturday night games. They get a little bit more boozed up knowing that there isn't work tomorrow. So you get, I think, a better reflection of the true nature of the fans, and they booed them off the ice at the end of the game. And I guess I'm going to start with that. So after the game, you had Mitch Marner say that he believed that he liked the effort and thought that they played really well. I guess do you have a problem with that?
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, I heard your spiel about the start of it and the accountability, and you want players to have accountability. Mm-hmm. If the team was in a tough position in the standings, I would have, if they were in a wild card seat currently at the moment, mm-hmm. I'd have more problems with it. And obviously we've seen quotes like that from multiple players when they've been in tougher situations, whether it's the playoffs after losing and etc. But for me, with the team being where they're at, 2 games in January where they laid absolute eggs, I can see what he's probably trying to do is not sound the panic button, but what it does is obviously it infuriates fans and media like yourself and others. So Would you have liked to have seen him maybe handle it differently? Yes. Would you want them to all sound the panic button alarm at this moment with where they're at and how they've been playing with all the issues they've had? No. So I could probably get a glimpse into understanding why he didn't want to completely sound the alarm after 2 games and where they're at. And would you like them to always have more accountability? Yes. I mean, we've been asking for that for a while now. So, but I do understand probably why he went at it the way.
Kris Versteeg and Francois Beauchemin to Los Angeles Kings, possible deal with Toronto Maple Leafs. In an interesting twist in the NHL trade market, new rumors are emerging about Kris Versteeg and Francois Beauchemin potentially being traded to the Los Angeles Kings. Sources indicate that the Kings, who have been one of the most active teams in recent weeks, are evaluating the possibility of bolstering their defense with Beauchemin, while Versteeg, who brings strong offensive capabilities, could be a key piece in a larger trade. This move becomes even more intriguing considering the Kings' surplus of offensive pieces available for trade, exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking for to strengthen their roster. It's speculated that with Versteeg included in the deal, the Leafs could be targeting a possible addition like Wayne Simmonds, along with a mid-range draft pick. This move makes sense given Simmonds' struggles this season, as he has yet to find his top form on the ice. To add more drama to the trade talk, there are even whispers that veteran defenseman Tomas Kaberle could be included, opening the door for a potential pursuit of Brayden Schenn. If completed, this move could have a significant impact on reshaping the Leafs lines and adding more depth to the team. Stay tuned for updates to see if these trades come to fruition and how they might shape the future of Toronto and Los Angeles this season. In an interesting twist in the NHL trade market, new rumors are emerging about Kris Versteeg and Francois Beauchemin potentially being traded to the Los Angeles Kings. Sources indicate that the Kings, who have been one of the most active teams in recent weeks, are evaluating the possibility of bolstering their defense with Beauchemin, while Versteeg, who brings strong offensive capabilities, could be a key piece in a larger trade. This move becomes even more intriguing considering the Kings' surplus of offensive pieces available for trade, exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking for to strengthen their roster. It's speculated that with Versteeg included in the deal, the Leafs could be targeting a possible addition like Wayne Simmonds, along with a mid-range draft pick. This move makes sense given Simmonds' struggles this season, as he has yet to find his top form on the ice. To add more drama to the trade talk, there are even whispers that veteran defenseman Tomas Kaberle could be included, opening the door for a potential pursuit of Brayden Schenn. If completed, this move could have a significant impact on reshaping the Leafs lines and adding more depth to the team. The Kings' situation is complex, as they are in the midst of a transitional period. Their aging roster, which includes a core group that led them to several successful playoff campaigns in the past, has seen some struggles in recent seasons. While there's a clear need for defensive help, Los Angeles may also want to improve their offensive consistency in order to make a deep playoff push. The combination of Beauchemin's defensive reliability and Versteeg's offensive upside could help the Kings balance their lineup. From the Leafs' perspective, this potential deal is about retooling for the future. The team is in a position to compete, but they also need to solidify certain areas on the ice. Adding a player like Wayne Simmonds could provide the grit and scoring touch that the team has been missing. Furthermore, acquiring a mid-range draft pick could help with future team-building efforts, as Toronto looks to remain competitive while still developing young talent. The inclusion of Kaberle in the trade package could be a strategic move for both teams. The veteran defenseman, who has been with the Leafs for a long time, has seen his role diminished in recent seasons. However, his experience and offensive abilities could be a valuable asset for Los Angeles, who could use a steady presence on the blue line to help their younger players develop. The talk surrounding Brayden Schenn's potential involvement in the deal adds an intriguing layer to the negotiations. Schenn, a versatile forward, has shown flashes of brilliance but has been inconsistent at times. If the Leafs are able to land him, it could be a great opportunity for both the player and the team to find success together. Schenn's physicality, two-way game, and leadership could be exactly what the Leafs need to bolster their forward group. While the trade market can be volatile and unpredictable, these rumors suggest that both the Kings and Leafs are preparing for significant changes. For Toronto, this could mark the beginning of a new era, with a focus on adding more experience and depth. For Los Angeles, the trade could be a chance to retool and address some of the weaknesses in their lineup, while still competing for a playoff spot this season. Of course, as with any trade rumors, it's important to remember that these discussions are fluid and can evolve quickly. There are many moving parts in these types of negotiations, and both teams will likely have to weigh their options carefully before making any final decisions. It's also possible that other teams could enter the fray, further complicating the situation. In the coming days, fans of both teams will be watching closely to see if any concrete moves are made. The NHL trade deadline is fast approaching, and teams are scrambling to position themselves for a successful postseason. Whether this rumored deal materializes or not, the possibility of a major trade between the Leafs and Kings will certainly keep fans on edge as the season continues to unfold. The trade talks involving Versteeg, Beauchemin, and potentially Simmons or Schenn highlight the delicate balance that NHL teams must strike between immediate success and long-term growth. Both the Leafs and Kings are trying to find that balance, and this rumored deal could ultimately serve as a